Hello everyone, welcome to The Green Man. In the video I'm going to do today, this is something a little bit different from the norm. So normally in my videos I'm talking about music, heavy metal in particular, or I'm talking about fantasy sometimes as well. So this is a bit of a deviation from my usual video upload. But I'm such a big fan of this series, and it's one of the things I've been rewatching during the months in the lockdown, during the pandemic. And I have to say, I can't think of much that I have seen in the past that is this, this pulsating, the tension in a lot of the episodes of The Walking Dead. Obviously, you've got the zombies and the violence, but you've also got a really interesting psychological study of a bunch of human beings in a global pandemic situation. Now, obviously, zombies, not real and all that sort of stuff, but it's sort of a little strangely prophetic with what's happened with, in a way, with the global pandemic and people's behaviour, how that has changed, and it affects the way we as human beings can act towards each other. So, Walking Dead, whilst obviously being fictional, suddenly doesn't feel as strange or perhaps as far from the truth as it might have done when we were first watching it. Obviously, though, The Walking Dead themselves and all that stuff is still, thankfully, fairly far from the truth. But anyway, I thought I'd do this video. This is going to be me talking about my 10 favourite episodes. So enough of the introduction. These are my top 10 favourite episodes of this amazing TV series. As I say, I can't think of much else that I've seen that has gripped me in the same way as this series. I would say I favour the early series generally a bit more. Some of the later series have some good episodes in them as well. I'll also say I haven't seen season 10, which I know is a bit sacrilegious when I'm doing this video, and obviously 11 as well, which I think is still to come out. You might want to let me know about that one. I'm not totally sure about that. So I've only really been rewatching those other seasons, 1 to 9. So I'm conscious my top 10 episodes don't necessarily include the full scope, which to some may be a bit of a cop-out. But anyway, I've enjoyed rewatching them so much that I wanted to do this video. Okay, so my top 10, starting with season 7, episode 8. And this episode, of course, was called Heart Still Beating. I kind of must admit I love this episode a lot for one thing, and that is the comeuppance that Spencer gets, and the way it's handled. I think it's such a, with Negan and with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I think the way he handles Negan is pretty cool in the way that, he's always, you can always not quite know what he's going to do next, and that's what I love about that character, his unpredictability. Or his unpredictable nature. We know he's a bit of a psychopath, that you're never quite sure what action he's going to take with a character. He's going to take him on his side, or is he going to kill him? And I think this is what makes his character so sort of interesting, and why you just want to see what happens next. In this episode, I just think with the whole thing, the scenes with Spencer and how he's seeing, we're not quite sure how that's going to go, but it's kind of nice to see, in a way, Spencer get a bit of a comeuppance, because he was all backstabby towards Rick and everything else. So it felt like a pretty good sort of payoff towards the end of that episode. I did like this one quite a bit, so I thought, I put it at number 10. It's actually, I don't want to spoil it. I'm not going to say anything else. So what's at my number 9? My number 9 is season 4, episode 12. Now, a bit of a strange pick, this one. Not your usual action-packed, pulsating Walking Dead episode, this one. It's a little different. This is season 4, episode 12, still. And it's kind of the Beth and Daryl episode, but I really, really like this one, even though it wasn't your standard Walking Dead exciting episode. It was quite a nice bit of a character show, and just in a sort of a nice depiction of this coming together of these two characters in a bit more closer view than we'd seen to this point, and everyone was kind of wondering whether there might be a bit of a romance there, but as sort of viewers, we're thinking there's also a bit of an age gap maybe there. In the end, I think it was more of a caring thing, that the two characters cared about each other, not necessarily that there was anything romantic going on. But I just like this episode. I just thought as a character episode, it was really nicely done. And that's my piece on that one. So probably not a common pick, but I just like that episode for some reason, and that maybe is why. Number 8, Season 1, Episode 4. The first season. This episode, again, I think there was actually something that I found. This was an early, very early episode of this series, when Frank Darabont was still involved as well, and I just really like this episode. And I think there's a scene in particular with Amy towards the end that is really quite creepy and a bit disturbing, and it's probably because it was one of the first deaths I actually saw on this show. But I think it's done very, very well, and all the deaths as the series goes on can become a bit sort of, it's a bit morbid, isn't it? But they're not. They become almost slightly trivial when it's just a character you don't know. But there's something with the whole Amy scene in this which is slightly, almost a bit scary. It takes a lot to scare me, but there was something in this very early season, very early episode, that was very unnerving. And I think that the Amy scene towards the end in this one was just very, very captivating. Rewatch it and see if you agree. But I like this episode a lot. I think it's a really good, just as an episode of horror, I think it's a really good one. Perhaps again an unusual pick. You might be expecting me to say more finales or mid-season finales. Well, see what's coming up. Number 7, Series 3, Episode 4, The Killer Within. Obviously, spoilers here. I'm going to have to say at the start of the video, spoilers, or put in the title, spoilers, but major character deaths. But I think these are really sort of, the build-ups to these is really good. It's an action-packed episode. In Season 3, there's a lot of action, I think, and this is one of those episodes where it's just an enormous amount of drama. The scene with Rick when he finds out as well afterwards is perhaps one of the most emotive scenes in the series as well. I think Killer Within is a great episode. What's at number 6? My 6th favourite, number 6 in my top 10. Season 6, Episode 13, The Same Boat. Very much a Carol episode. But Carol is a great character in this whole series. Her arc is one of the best, for sure, with how she changes as we see the season go on. And this episode, we really see her actually becoming a bit more, her conscience is kind of returning a bit more. And I think there's quite an amazing performance from one of her one of the imprisoners, one of the guards. I think it's Paula that is her kidnapper even. And the performance by her, the actress that plays Paula in this, I thought was really, really good. And it's quite, again, there's all the amazing end to this episode, which is a great horror scene, I think, and the payoff as well, in a sense, that we see. It's a great Carol episode, I think, at its heart, and it's just one of those a really, really good one. Number 5 is a mid-season finale. Season 4, Episode 8, Too Far Gone. The showdown with the governor, and it is one of the best showdowns, I think, that I've seen in The Walking Dead that I can think of. And, there's a few scenes in this I probably don't need to mention. If you're familiar with The Walking Dead, you will know why I've picked this and why it's pretty high up, because it is a really, really big showdown. Some amazing scenes with people hesitant about, which side they're on and everything, and I think it just all reaches this really interesting climax. And it's a pretty hard-hitting, pretty devastating episode, this one, so it's high up, number 5 on my list. Number 4 now, we're getting to the real best of, my real favourite episodes here, and Season 6, Episode 2, JSS. Now, another fantastic Carol episode. There must be something about me in the Carol episodes, and this one, she's kind of like an assassin, walking around with that knife, and trying to help her co-residents survive from this attack from, I think, the wolves. I think I've got that right. And she is, again, amazing this episode, again showing her sort of strength as a character. And, we sort of see the contrast between her and Morgan a lot, which I really like. You've got Morgan, who is still somewhat, he's trying to be a good person, still trying to see the good in the world, and Carol, who we sort of see is basically a badass, and essentially, she's been through an awful lot, has sacrificed a lot, and is at the stage where killing doesn't bother her disturbingly as much, as it does bother Morgan. So it's just an interesting contrast in this episode as well, a great character comparison almost. Thoroughly enjoyed JSS, it's at number 4. Now my top 3 episodes are just superb TV. I cannot say enough. These are amazing episodes of TV. Number 3, the premiere of season 5, episode 1, No Sanctuary. The whole thing at Terminus, the twists and turns, the action-packed episodes in this, and the reunion at the end, which is a nice moment too. This has got everything, this episode, everything you could want from a Walking Dead episode. The horror, as I say, the thrill of the action, sort of the violence, a great escape almost. It's got everything you'd want from a Walking Dead episode, and it's my number 3 choice here. Now we get to my top 2, and my number 2 choice, number 1 choice, really tough to decide on these two. These were the episodes that have stuck in my mind the most. From when I originally watched these, and from my rewatch as well. And number 2, is season 5, episode 14, Spend. And obviously, there's a death scene in this, which is really, really just horrific. But I think the way it's done, it's the swivelling door scene in particular. The way this is done is some of the best. I think possibly this is better than a lot of the best horror films I've seen. This particular scene is so captivating, so horrific, and just in terms of directing, I think this was directed so well. This episode and this scene in particular, it's so good. This whole episode, I think, as well, is just so good. I could not have it any lower than number 2. It hit me hard, this one, and I just thought at the end, wow, that was some episode of drama, something else. My top pick, my number 1, is season 2, episode 7, Pretty Much Dead Already. The whole Sophia arc, the development of Daryl, Shane, John Bernthal is incredible in this, when he just goes off on one and we see the barn door open and everything just, unfolds before us. That conflict is something else, really. And the reveal, obviously, at the end, pretty heartbreaking. For me, this is the quintessential Walking Dead episode. It's just got the little twists and turns in it, and the reveal and everything is done seriously well. It's just an amazing episode. It's my number 1. I think it's stuck in my memory, perhaps more than else. A lot of people don't like season 2, but I don't think you can argue this episode is just gold. It's just absolute gold. Anyway, it'd be interested to know if you watch The Walking Dead. As I say, it's a bit outside of the channel's usual realm, but I thought, what the hell. I make the rules, I guess, for my own channel. So, hope you enjoyed it, and take care. See you later.